Homelessness 2.0, day 71. So I'm about 90% certain that whatever I've got is COVID. Because I've probably gotten the flu and the cold, both of those combined on average about once a year. So I'm usually getting something every year. Because, you're not immune to either one of them. And that's the funny thing. We're not immune to them. Because they mutate. They change. And make it to where you can still get infected. Same thing goes with COVID. And one of the things that we were trying to do in the beginning with the whole shutdowns and everything, like, from my understanding, an epidemiologist doesn't want a new sickness permeating society. And a lot of people are also finding out that businesses don't want it either. But so many people have their heads so far up businesses' asses, and because we have a culture that does not permit a pragmatic and proactive future understanding of things, it's too fucking late now. See, what we could have done, what should have been done, and probably what would have been done, I say probably, if we had had a different president, or at the very least, if Fuckface 45 had actually had some kind of, but I mean, what am I really saying? He was actually an intelligent person who understood this shit? Of course not, because he didn't showcase any of it. It's wishful fucking thinking. But if all he had said was, look, stay home. Stay home. Mask up when you go outside. Try to go outside as little as humanly possible. We'll pay you $2,000 a month. We're going to prevent people from garnishing wages or from evicting you or anything like that. If you can pay your bills, please. If you can't, we'll see what we can do to help make it easier on you. Because what we want to do, and here's the key point, because what we want to do is to stop the spread of this thing and to make it to where it doesn't continue, doesn't persist. Because that's what you really want to do. You don't want it to end up like it has been. It's been 2 years. It's here to stay. COVID's not gone. It's not going away. It's here to stay. Thank you, ass faces of the world. God damn it. That's annoying. God damn it, and I can smell it too. Fuck. That's annoying. So, and I'm not just saying this just because I have it. It's because it's better, if you will, not for us, but for itself. And it's the better version of illness. It's the better illness. It has it's easier to inflict. If you have you ever played Plague Inc. Like when this whole thing was going down in the first place, I was like, wait, this thing can actually do well. It's not killing a bunch of people. It's spreading like wildfire. This is exactly how you do it. I mean, the best way to play Plague Inc. is, if possible, make it to where it has no symptoms whatsoever. Try to make it as infectious as possible. Make the as the game continues, you just progress to where you can just get as many transmission possibilities. Deal with various resistances so that it doesn't. So like medicine and temperatures and stuff like that don't really affect it and don't stop it from spreading as well. And then once you've infected everybody, you open it up like a time bomb, and then you start dumping in a bunch of symptoms, and especially ones that can start killing people, and then you just eradicate the whole planet. That's how you play Plague Inc. anyway. That's how you want to. That doesn't always work, depending on difficulty and so many other factors. One of the aspects of difficulty, by the way, of Plague Inc. is how many times people go to the doctor and how many times they wash their hands. It's kind of sad. There we go. Speaking of washing hands. So chances are, with this situation in my face right now, and the fact that it's been going on now for day 4, I believe, I'm going to have to cancel my driving appointment because I don't want to make anybody else sick, because I'm not an asshole like that. America sucks, yeah. Really does. Because we can't get our shit together. We've done so much for all the wrong people, failing to recognize the people make up this country. And like, we got assholes who are yelling at pharmacy workers and fast food workers for all the dumbest fucking things. For no real reason. No good reason. No real reason. And it's like, what kind of entitled pricks are we that has somehow been considered acceptable behavior? Like, my own mother, for instance, is a walking, talking Karen. Last time I checked anyway, I don't know, I hadn't talked to her in enough years at least for my own mental fucking health, which in of itself still isn't good, largely due to her and my now deceased stepfather, or stepdad, whatever you want to fucking call him. Asshole. we've got people who can't, they don't got enough, they don't got enough of this, they don't got enough of that. I mean, hell, you know the sad thing is, I remember wanting to be one of those people. Not that I was, but I wanted to be. I would even lie about the fact that I would be that person. I'd make up stupid shit where, you know, I went to a McDonald's or something, and I'd be like, I want a this without any mayo, and then they give me mayo, and then I throw it on the floor or something in front of them. I said, make it again. I made up that lie before. I never did it, but for some fucked up reason, for some sort of social credit reason, I lied about doing it. Because apparently, being a piece of shit is a form of social status. Like, what the fuck? What is that? What is wrong with us? Why is that acceptable behavior? Why is that celebrated behavior? I'm sure it's not nearly as much anymore, but it still gets, people still get rewarded for it all the time. You go to a restaurant, you make a hissy fit, you get your meal comped, even though you were totally in the fucking wrong. So you being in the wrong, you still get something out of it, instead of laughed out of the place. Because apparently we can't treat people, like, I don't know, our employees, and instead we treat customers like they're gods. And then what happens? All this crazy entitlement starts to show up. And then we wonder, you know, I don't know, why the plague happens and continues and persists. Because there's so much entitlement in this country. We can't stop and actually think about the people who are doing the work, who need the help. We can't help our people. We only seem to care about helping our businesses. Because that's where we're at right now, aren't we? Isn't that the whole thing? You know, the whole CDC guidelines thing? Oh, well, you know, you can go ahead and just, you know, you don't have to force you don't have to worry about your employees not working. They'll come to work because we're going to make it where it's in your favor. It's like, fuck, man, really? So, here's what I'm hoping. And it's going to suck. It's going to suck hard if this goes down like this anyway. But I'm hoping it's going to happen anyway. And you know what? I'll have to suffer through it too. But I hope that this gets bad enough that the problem with the way that our current society works is this sort of, you know, and I've talked about it before, and there's a video by Innuendo Studios that talks about the whole, there's a bigger fish. And in his video, it talks about sharks and minnows, and sharks should be able to eat as many minnows as they want. And minnows being the people at the bottom. And minnows don't get to get anything. They should consider it a gift if they get anything. And now he's not the one making that point. He's claiming that is the point of the people who work this system and believe in the system. Well, because we have effectively built a system like that, we've got to figure out how to tear it down. Well, in order to tear it down, the bottom has to suffer. I'm not happy by that. I'm not happy with that for any reason whatsoever. That's just how it has to work in order for the top to feel anything in a system like that. It's how it works. That's what happened in the Great Depression. The Great Depression, the bottom felt most of it. Sure, a bunch of the top didn't feel a whole lot, But enough changes were made. Enough things happened. Now, obviously, did it fix everything? No. I don't know why I got another one of these out when I already got it. But I hope it gets to the point where we end up with at least a sufficient amount of change, for at the very least, the next couple of decades. I mean, because the rich, the elite, all they're going to do is just going to buy their time. They're going to have all the money they need. Do whatever the fuck they feel like. They're probably not going to hurt nearly as much. But we need to make it to where the minnows, as it were, come out much better than they currently are. This whole situation is stupid. We could have done well enough to prevent this thing from spreading and persisting. And now it's here to stay. And we're going to have to adapt to it. Because here's the thing. Going back to my original thing about how I know why this is essentially COVID that I'm dealing with. Because when I would deal with the flu, typically 1 or 2 days, I would feel like absolute goddamn shit. Like I'd feel the tickle. The next day, I'd wake up and I'd feel like absolute fucking garbage. Throughout the whole day, I'd feel like that. And then sometimes, the next day, it would feel the same. And then, I would have the after effects, but I wouldn't feel anything. I wouldn't have any sensation of the flu in me, right? Like, the heat or the malaise or you know, just kind of those aspects, the chills, etc. The cold, I'd kind of just feel it in my head, and typically the cold would last for a couple of days, sometimes up to a week. And then there would be the after effects, and those would sometimes last, sometimes 2-3 weeks for me, depends. Sometimes up to a week. I don't know how long the after effects are going to be for this. Never had COVID before. From my understanding, sometime the original COVID back in the early 2020s, God, it's been 2 years. Some people will be like, wow, what the fuck's wrong with me? And it'd be over with, and they'd be like, okay. And then some people, they'd have it even worse or whatever. So that's the thing. Because we're so far in now, and it's evolved so much, it's mutated so much, what it is now versus what it was is very different. It's milder, yes, but that doesn't mean it's mild. Because, getting back to the original point, if you're out for a day or two, that's one thing, right? But if you're out for 4 or 5 or 7 days, that has compounding exponential issues. Because if one person is out for 1 day, let's say at a restaurant, then they'll probably be able to get another person to work a double, most likely. Or they'll have 2 people split the double. And they'll probably either already be working or that day or something along those lines. All right, no problem. A couple bucks extra that would have gone to you, they're going to go to some other people, so those wages have already paid for. Now, you're out again another day. Okay, well, probably have to do something like that again. Not entirely optimal, but it's possible. You're at a third day. well, shit. These are other people's days off. We're gonna have to possibly call people in. You know, now the manager is probably gonna start acting like an asshole toward you and everybody else. And then, what happens if on day 4 somebody else is also sick? You're still out because you're still sick. This is my 4th day, by the way. You're still sick, and now somebody else is starting to be sick. You don't know when you're going to be healthy again, and now somebody else is calling out sick. Okay? Now, you can't just do what you did day 1, because you're already trying to cover for the other 2 days, plus this day. Now you're going to cover for a second person. And what if it starts to compound? What if it lasts a week for each of them? And then because we all got sick somehow because, well, we had to go to work sick because we've relaxed our whole process. We've already, like, the reason we're in this fucking place in the first place is because we had a culture of working sick. And now we have an illness that can potentially last a lot longer than the previous ones did. And so now you have this sort of overlapping, leapfrogging, exponential problem where it's possible that no matter what, your employees will be sick every day of the year. It's very possible. Especially if you have a culture that says, come to work sick. And especially because we do that with lower paying jobs. We damned ourselves. Because here's the thing. Evolution when it comes to something like an illness, all it needs to do is just keep proliferating. If it kills the host, it doesn't last very long. Like, sure, Ebola is pretty deadly. It's not 100% though. But it's better than 50. But it still manages to proliferate because of the animals it normally gets transmitted through. Those animals have short lifespans. They breed like crazy. They are in typically high density populations that also like travel all over the place. Bats especially. Like, there's a reason why bats are a major vector of so many diseases. Because they're perfect for it. They spend a lot of time with each other, usually in closed places, breathing all over each other. They can travel very well. So that's why they have, like pretty much like 20 plus diseases in them at all times. Which is why you get tested. Especially for rabies if you get bitten by one. I've mentioned this before in another video. Well, humans aren't exactly the best vector for a lot of deadly viruses or other pathogens, because we take 9 fucking months to gestate, and then we take anywhere between, fuck man, there's some seriously depressing stats on this. I can't recall the youngest girl to ever get pregnant, but I think she was 5. Which has a lot of fucked up implications involved. But sexual maturity is happening earlier in humans, at least in girls. There's a lot of, supposed questions about that. Hormones in the food and blah, blah, blah. I don't have any information. I don't have enough information on that to make an assessment or to provide any information about it or whatever, but make sure this is still running. I don't have the hotspot on. It seems fine. Although not yesterday, but the day before, it still went off. But it was probably because it was hot as fucking here. Because I was still feeling like absolute shit. But even so, even if our species starts procreating sooner, or at least being sexually mature enough to start procreating sooner, it's not boiling enough. It still takes a long goddamn time for us to successfully breed over. Whereas with a small species like rabbits and bats and stuff like that, insects, this is why malaria is such a big deal, because mosquitoes breed thousands a year. Not individually, but like one mosquito can have a lineage of potentially hundreds of thousands of mosquitoes throughout an entire year. And they don't even die from malaria, they just pass it on because there's no big deal for them. Which is another thing. We're all like, yeah, go ahead and just relax our standards. Because if you're asymptomatic, who cares? Because that helps spread it. Everything is going to get disrupted by this. Everything. The next 2 years, a lot of people are going to learn some shit, myself included, that they weren't prepared to learn. And the main thing that's going to help people be prepared is money. And a lot of us aren't going to have it. And I hope, in the process of all this, people who don't have any money do a lot of work to really fuck with those who do. Because I'm sick of it. I'm sure plenty of other people are sick of it. And I don't want it just for me, because the same reason I don't want just me to be, the same reason I don't want to go to work while I'm sick. I don't want to affect other people. It's called being human. It's called being a social creature. It's called empathy. It's caring about people. I've done my best. It took 2 years for me to finally get sick. I wasn't sick at all that I can recall in the last 2 years. Not once. I had little scares, I guess you could call them. Headache here or there one day. But this is the first time I've been sick. And you have people who, they're not even critics, they're just straight up denialists. They think they're being critics. Talking about, of course, this new variant, just in time for the holidays. It's like, when do you think the flu usually comes up? Like, the Sigma variant, the Sigma and the Omicron variants, they came around, or not, I don't think Sigma, I don't fucking know. There's so many damn ones now, but Omicron came out around the same fucking time that the flu usually starts popping up in the northern hemisphere. The coincidences. And why is it that everything is always the COVID and it's not the flu or something else? Because it's better. It's the same reason a football team going 17 to 0, if you will. I don't know how many fucking games they have to play for the Super Bowl. Goes to the goddamn Super Bowl. It's why in March Madness the same teams continue to win throughout the entirety of it. If you look at who is playing at the very end of a tournament, and you're like, why is it always these people? Why has it always been these people who have been playing this whole time? Because they're the ones winning. COVID has been winning in competition with the flu and the cold. Because it's better. Is it possible that both of those two will effectively become eradicated because of COVID? Yes. And in so doing, we'll just be stuck with COVID. I realized yesterday I don't really have to cook this for 3 minutes because it's going to continue cooking in the bowl. Because it's still hot as fucking balls. It's hot as shit, yo. I'm not too stuffed up, at least in the nose. Because then I can close it and I can kind of sound like this. Ow, but that's the problem with these damn porcelain bowls. It's so fucking hot. Anyway. As long as decided to finally open my hot sauce yesterday too. It's time to start dumping it into stuff. I gotta figure out what the hell I'm gonna do with it all. But chances are I'm gonna have to cancel my driving test. Sucks. Unless I literally feel better tomorrow. Like, I can't. Today is going to be the determiner of that. Of, like, how I feel today is most likely going to be determining not just how I feel tomorrow, but how things will be tomorrow. if I feel like shit today, and I haven't felt like absolute shit, but I mean, I haven't felt better. If I don't feel better, then in my mind, I'm not better. Too much water in here. Part of spilling over, which sucks. But it's a good thing that I did this in the sink. It's whatever. And if I don't feel better by the end of today, then tomorrow morning I'm going to have to cancel and try to postpone it. Because I think, and I'll have to check that today anyway, but I think if I cancel within 24 hours or 48 hours, I shouldn't get charged. Especially since all I want to do is just postpone it. Because I still need to do it. I still need to take my driver's test and try to get my driver's license. I wish they hadn't had to wait this long. I mean, fuck, if I had been able to do it Thursday last week, I think it would have been literally the day. Because what, today's Monday. Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Friday. Yeah, Thursday was the day that I felt the tickle later in the day. Now, I'm not saying that would have been necessarily the best thing. But if it had been doable, it would have been nice. But the earliest they said was like the 11th. I was like, well, I guess I'll wait, the 2 more days for the one instructor. Because the earliest possible one was the 11th. Whereas the earliest for the instructor that I've had in the last 2 sessions was the 13th. So I gotta go look that up to make sure that I'm not gonna get shafted or anything when I try to postpone it. Oh, fuck. We'll see, I guess. I don't know. But that's why I got the various soups and the stuff that's easy, so that I don't have to put too much effort into this shit. But I can't think of anything else. So have fun.